We're live.
All right, good evening. Today is Thursday, September 30th, 2021. This is the Finance Committee for the Village of Golf Manor. If I can have a roll call of committee members, please.
Mr. Betcher,
Here.
Ms. Cheney,
Here.
and Mr. Pridnoff.
If I have a motion to excuse Mr. Bruno,
No, I'm not gonna do it.
I'll make a motion. Nobody else second. Motion does not.
Motion dies.
I'm sorry?
Motion dies.
Correct, yep. Do I have a motion to set the agenda and adopt?
Make a motion to adopt.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
First, perfect. Nobody registered to address the committee. We have minutes from August 16th. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Yes, I'll make a motion to
I'll
approve.
second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Moving into the financial package for August 2021.
Yeah, so I'm going to keep this somewhat brief because we have guests here this evening. For the month of August, fiscal year 21, the village had an adjusted bank balance of just north of $4 million. Of this amount, $3.5 million can be found in the village's primary checking account, and the remaining balance in the police combined law enforcement funds. For the month, the village spent $332,000 and received $760,000 in revenue. The large deposit of receipts is due to the village receiving the second half property taxes. Of this amount, the village received $73,000 in general fund income taxes, which is about on par with what we received in August of last year. And we received $687,000 in general fund. That's not right. We have a total of $687,000 in general fund real estate taxes. I think it was, I don't have the number right in front of me, but it was probably in the $350,000 range.
Mm-hmm.
For the month, general fund revenues were $470,000. It's the end of my report. Any questions? Concerns?
Was the timing of the auditor's payout different this year than last?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
Right.
so the auditor payout, it's just based on when the report comes due. And of course, last year they kept on extending, requesting an extension after an extension after an extension. This time, there was one extension that was for 30 days at the end of August to get us through tomorrow. And that's it. And I believe we've made payment to the auditor on that invoice, approximately $15,000.
I do have a question.
Sure.
Donlin payment was $14,000. Is that 1 month or 2 months?
That was for a 2-month period.
It was 2 months.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Thanks.
Yeah, our fees to our outstanding legal counsel have been extremely high this year.
Mhm.
And it's just one of those things where, given the circumstances around our fire service, future fire
Yeah.
service, we're just eating through legal costs, and there's not much we can do about it until that issue is resolved.
Still better than
Yeah, well,
rate-wise.
Yeah.
So,
I think that we did an appropriation readjustment for legal counsel, the last one or the one previous.
it was the last time.
Yeah.
The last
I
time
think
that
we added 15.
we added $15,000 to it. So that's something that we're going to have to keep an eye on for the next finance committee meeting and probably the one in November, because just given the volatility around fire and EMS operations.
So in that vein, there are a number of things that we're trying to do to keep that cost low, things that we can handle on our own. Andy just recently sent our tax liens for abatement to the village, which Terry would normally do. We did that.
Oh,
So
I didn't know we could. Hey.
Apparently we can. And there were no issues that I am aware of with it, so.
they said,
Okay.
They said, thank you.
great. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, that was brief. Thank you, Mr. Lanzer. Mr. Hirth, ARPA.
Yeah, so we received the American Rescue Plan monies. We have the $187,000 for our first installment for 2021. We'll have a second installment next year. We are required to file by the end of the month our initial plan to those folks who want to know that. So what I would like to have before this committee in the month of October is just our initial discussion of projects that we're going to do. We know that we're funding half of the playground project, and the numbers on that are changing. It's coming down a little bit from what it was because the full discounts hadn't been applied. Another story for another day. We're also looking at the employee stipend. We're looking at putting internet access in Volunteer Park and in Memorial Park. And then I've talked to the mayor about getting the numbers to go ahead and move forward with the abatement of lead pipe on private and public properties on the, I think there's like 15 different properties in the village. So then we can declare Golf Manor lead free. Those are all things that fall into the guidelines of the ARPA funds. We'll have other things that we'll want to talk about. So in your committees, you should be thinking about things. The guidelines are much stricter than they were when they were peeling money off for COVID. But I think certainly it's funding that we can use. So we'll have that for you next time.
Great. With the pending business for the police detail pay policy, do you want to discuss that or?
No, at this point, Chief Campbell and I are still working through that. So
great. Old business, the audit update for 2019, 2020.
Yeah, so I spoke about it in greater detail in the audit committee meeting, but the audit for fiscal year 19 and fiscal year 20 has been completed. A draft report was submitted to me by our friends at Perry and Associates. They were the auditing firm out of Marietta, Ohio, who had contracts with the state auditor's office to perform the audits of municipalities. Good news is we are moving in the right direction. Clearly, in the last audit, the 17-18 audit, they had 14 findings against the village. This last audit, they had 2. And the findings, which were financial reporting, and the second finding in compliance, were both repeated findings from the previous audit. Financial reporting was repeated primarily because of the village. In the last audit, we were advised to create additional funds, and because we didn't receive that audit until last year, the opportunity to create those new funds didn't happen until this auditing period. So of course, when they're reviewing 19 and 20, they're going to have the same issues that they had in 17, 18, based purely on the timing of when we received the previous audit. The compliance finding, again, was also cited in the previous audit. We need to create a dedicated fund for the permissive motor vehicle license taxes. And we were aware of this in the previous audit. There was confusion. Well, we disagreed with that finding in the previous audit, and we were hoping that this audit cycle would be performed by the state's auditor's office, and it wasn't. With that said, we are just going to go ahead and create the new fund. Get it off. It's been repeated twice now. We'll just go ahead and do it. It's going to make a little bit of our payroll a little more complicated, but let's be in compliant with the Ohio Revised Code. Sure. With that said, the deadline to get the draft report is tonight at midnight. So I would like to get this audit, the draft report, signed by myself. I already went ahead and signed it. I would need a mayoral signature, or if I can't get that, an approval just to say we aren't contesting any of the findings in the audit, and get that to them tonight. Otherwise, we'll need an extension. So,
Are you going to sign that?
a verbal is okay, they said.
If Andy, I apologize, I am not up to speed
Yeah.
on what you're talking about at all.
Sure.
So if you can get with me for 5-10 minutes and
And I'm happy
put
to
it
do
in
it.
simple language,
Yeah.
be happy to consider it.
So that's the audit for 19 and 20 on balance. Great audit. Again, we're moving in the right direction. Anytime you go from it's kind of like golf. Anytime you go from a high number to a lower number, you're doing something right. So hopefully in the next one, we will have our findings.
All right,
Mr. Betcher, we won't come back after we get an executive session, so I don't know if you want to go ahead and make the announcements before we do this.
yeah, only announcement is the next finance committee meeting is scheduled for Monday, October 25th, 2021 at 6 p.m. here in Chambers. With that, there's a request for an executive session for matters of employment and compensation of a public employee or official. Do I have a motion to move to executive session?
I'll make a motion to move.
And then that's a roll call, I believe, to move to executive session.
Hold on a second.
Sure.
Mr. Betcher,
Yes.
Ms. Cheney,
Yes.
Mr. Prydenow.
Yes.
Motion carries. With that, Mr. Hurd, if you'd like to.
Okay, so we are moving to executive session, which means we'll go dark for the rest of this meeting, but you can follow along in our minutes when they're posted on the website. And we'll go ahead and end the stream. And